Boomhauer69 here, and I'm going to talk more about this little building a homeless shelter idea here and stuff, and that I think would be neat to do if I was rich and loaded with all kinds of money. First of all, right off the bat, I understand you can't help everyone, you can't help every homeless person out there, because not every homeless person is going to accept help. They just want to be left alone, and some people like living that kind of lifestyle, And so, yeah, kind of can't help everyone. A lot of homeless people out there. There's a lot of homeless that suffer from mental illness, drug addictions, and there's all different types of homeless people out there. There's some that are just homeless because they simply lost their job and couldn't afford to live where they was living, and they're trying to get back on their feet, and they want housing and help and stuff, But what I would do is simply, as far as helping homeless and stuff, is I would do like a temporary homeless shelter setup where homeless people would come in when check-in time is, register a room, and then at night use the room, get up the next morning and leave, kind of like what you do at a motel and stuff, kind of like what most homeless shelters do and things. But some of the amenities that I would actually have is in like a room for a homeless person would be like what you'd mostly get in a motel, your basic motel room and stuff. You'd have your bed, your microwave, your mini fridge, a table. A table for one of those small round tables like a lot of motels have, and a dresser and a nightstand, and maybe a TV with some basic cable or satellite channels on it, because not every homeless person owns a internet device, a mobile device that would connect to internet, and they might have to have TV to watch the local news, get a weather report and stuff, and that might be their only source of communication, and obviously, have a little clock radio in the room and stuff, but also offer up free Wi-Fi as well and stuff, and add a kitchen where in the morning you could serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and have a day room, because I know some homeless shelters have what they call a day room, where it might be a room filled with tables and some activities they can do, and maybe some computers to get online, look up jobs and stuff, because I think that's important. I would definitely make sure to have a nice computer lab where they could go and get on a computer and try to look up help or whatever they need, maybe fill out applications and stuff, and offer up P.O. boxes, definitely, so they can have an address to get a job and stuff. And that would be basically about it, just have a day room, a soup kitchen, and a place for them to wash up and stuff. Maybe have each room have its own private little bathroom or something, and then also maybe add in a day room some facilities, like little locker room style facilities, where they can check out a locker and lock up their things while they're needing to clean up or whatever. Nothing. And maybe get us a local church or something a local church, and set up maybe like a little thrift store where people can come and donate stuff, and homeless people could, at least for free, see what kind of clothing and free stuff is out there available for them. Maybe they need a nice shirt or something to look them up a job and stuff. And so basically, on my idea of building a homeless shelter, I'm not looking. I wouldn't look to make some huge, grand, standout thing where it would be the type, oh, look at me, I'm Mr. Nice Guy, look at my homeless shelter, blah blah blah. Nothing like that. Just simple, basic, something that would get the job done. Nothing too, like, I guess called radical or whatever. I don't know proper terminology to use. But something that would get the job done and be simple and basic. Because around this area, around my area here, there's not many options for the homeless people. The only options are in this area. I know there's a couple churches that give out food in the area. There's the Pocket Change 360 store that helps out the homeless, and so as far as like an actual official homeless shelter, there ain't too much options in my area. I think the next town over might have one, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I do know the next town over does have a shelter for women, only one of them women only shelters. I know that and stuff, but that's what I would do as far as like trying to help out the homeless in the area. Is something simple, basic, where it would have all the basic amenities, where each room would be basically set up like a small motel room. You'd have your bed, your table, your wooden chairs, and maybe a nightstand dresser, and then a private bathroom to clean up in, and then maybe if there was room, maybe add maybe like a reclining chair or something, and add a TV in there so they can watch some basic TV. Like get some basic cable and satellite cable or a satellite package, and offer free Wi-Fi, so that way at night, if they want to be in the room looking at the computer, looking up whatever they need to look up to help them. Well, maybe they want to ask for money on the internet or get a job, whatever the case may be. Give them, offer up free Wi-Fi, and then just simply add some sort of day room where people could come in for the day and hang out and stuff. Maybe because I live in Michigan, winters are cold. Give them a place to get out of the cold, and maybe have some whiteboard games, puzzles, and kind of day room with some computers to help them look up stuff on the internet or do whatever they need to do, and also make more offices where the local government welfare agency, or as I think they used to call it around here, family independent agency, the welfare system, and welfare counselors and caseworkers could come and talk to the homeless and get the scope of what they need and stuff. Also mental health people maybe have a few little appropriate medical rooms, maybe for doctors to help diagnose maybe the people that are homeless and suffer from mental illness, and help them out in getting proper medications and different things. That doing a little medical room kind of little off thing would be pretty easy, because all I'd have to do is go to when I was ready and had the money to do all these things. Get with the local hospitals nearby. Talk to one of the hospital organizations and stuff, like the University of Michigan, Metro Health, or one of them, and get with a very good, well-known mental health doctor and say, hey, what do you think you need, and maybe add like a nice, maybe, or get with a doctor that wants to open up his own little walk-in clinic and say, hey, if you're willing to take in homeless people and check them out and stuff, I'll give you a free spot to set up your little walk-in clinic. Do something that would benefit the homeless and the community in general. Like my idea of the missionaries housing thingy. If I did something like that too, I would basically have it set up where there'd be a big main lobby area, and the homeless shelter and the missionary housing buildings would all be linked together, where it would kind of be like an apartment complex like they used to have back in the day, like the high-rise apartments where one side would be all like the missionary housing, and then the other side would be kind of like the law housing area for homeless and stuff, and far as like for the missionaries, there would be a regular Sunday church. I would add like a worshiping room, basically build a church, add on and connect it to the complex for the missionaries and homeless people who want to come and worship God and stuff in the community. Put a non-denominational church room in there, and then add like a swimming pool area as well, like some sort of like maybe giant like kind of YMCA swimming pool area, and then maybe a gymnasium, like a kind of maybe like I guess you call it like a half court type gymnasium area where people could work out and maybe play some basketball, some indoor sports, and to stuff, and make things that would that the community could also use, maybe a church organization wants to have a little event or something, and maybe make like a little multi-purpose area where room that could be just community could come and check it out, and rent it out for free, basically for a day for whatever, maybe a family has like a graduation or something and stuff, because that's what I was thinking about sitting here on my porch about, okay, if I had the money to do all this, what is it going to have? And I kept just thinking about like the rooms. Okay, if I was a homeless person and I walked into a homeless shelter and got a room, what would it have? And I picture in my head, a little twin bed over on one side and a little nightstand and dresser, and that'd be about it. And I thought to myself, well, when my mother and I got to thinking, well, when my mother was sick, I always had to, with my father, we always had to get a motel room, and then I got to think, well, what do motels usually have? And me and my father stayed in motels, and so I got to thinking, well, if I was going to do like something for the homeless, like rooms for homeless, I would just simply add the same amenities that you normally would have in a standard motel room. Have a phone set up for them where they can just dial a number, call somebody, and have a regular telephone, landline telephone, and a bed, maybe a twin or full bed, probably a full bed, and then a nightstand with a little clock radio and telephone on it, and then a little round table and chair, and then a dresser with a TV and a little mini microwave and mini fridge, and a little coffee pot and stuff, and then maybe their own little private bathroom where they can clean up and stuff, or maybe add a desk if in the room, but that would be the idea. Is like when I think about if I ever became well-to-do, I don't want to hog the wealth. It's if you're making billions and billions of dollars a year, to me, you can't spend all that money in your whole lifetime. To me, I think it's good for people to kind of share their wealth. If you're somebody that's out there, you're rich and well-to-do, don't be afraid to give an extra dollar or two to somebody, because at the end of the day, your money's just gonna rot. If you hoard it, you store it, and at the end of the day, it's just gonna rot. Nothing lasts forever. And the Bible preaches about going to heaven, and what does God want us to do? God wants us to help our fellow neighbor and our fellow man and stuff. So if Jesus Christ of Nazareth grants me wealth and stuff, and I can, and grants it where I can afford to do these things, that's what I would do to give back to the community and give back to others, and do other things as well. Like I talked about before, how cool it would be neat to some of these stuff I see on the internet be neat to buy, but also be able to give to a friend. Like for example, I see little electric motorbikes and gas powered mini bikes and go karts, and I think, oh, that'd be cool to review and talk about for a YouTube video if I had the money. But I also think it would be even more cooler to be able to buy about maybe 2 or 3 of them, and then give a couple away to somebody that might not have the fortunes to be able to enjoy some of those toys. Maybe for example, like little gas mini bikes. Like I did a video about that FRP little mini bike and gave my thoughts on it and stuff. I see stuff like that, and I think it would be neat to buy a few of them and give them out to a family that might not have much, and they might have some little ones, and the father's probably to a family where the father's the type of person that would think, it would be neat to teach my kids how to ride a little dirt bike of some sort, and be able to say, well, here's something, and because I know what it's like, growing up in a household where the parents didn't have a whole lot of money, and they had to tell the kid, oh no, we can't afford that, and being the little kid crying and whining, I want it, and your parents gotta spank your butt and tell you, no, you can't have it, If I'd been down that road, I was that little bratty kid, the one where finally the parents said enough and took their hand, swatted his hind end, and said, you straighten up, And so I know it was like my father didn't. I talked about this many times. My father wasn't the richest man in the world. I would say we was probably, when it comes to like level of middle class, I say we were probably on the lower end of the middle class spectrum. We wasn't poor where we was living out of vehicles or in campers or anything weird. We had a roof over our head and stuff, and food, and I had always food in my belly. I wasn't rich by no means. I had toys and different things, but I would say my family, my mom and dad were on the kind of lower end of the middle class, especially more in the early 2000s when my mother got really bad sick and ill with her medical problems, and inflation went up even more, and inflation started rising and stuff, and the cost of living went up. Definitely lower middle class, because my dad worked a factory job and stuff. But yeah, that's what I'm always thinking about. What would this have and stuff, and like just a little bit ago, I'm sitting there thinking about, what would this be like? What would it have? What amenities and all this stuff for the homeless and the missions and all that stuff. I started thinking about it. I thought, what, why don't just do a kind of a ramble talk video and stuff. And then I kind of lost my train of thought there a little bit. And that's usually how it goes. I started thinking about it, like, man, this would be a good video. And then I actually do it. And then it's like, yeah, it's a good video at the end of the day. But that's my going ideas. Like, I don't know where to begin, where to start. So I decided, well, what's the harm? Just make a video, talk about it, and go from there and stuff. And if the near future I'm able to successfully pull it off, I'm going to clap and say yay and be happy and be merry and proud. But, I'm not going to be too sad if I don't get the opportunity, because, at the end of the day, it's what Jesus Christ of Nazareth wants me to do, not what I want to do, It's what the Lord feels I need to do and stuff. But I do think that would be a nice idea to do, because we do have a homeless in the area, and give some more options to the homeless, because I think it would be neat housing in its kitchen, be able to offer up, 3 meals a day, and offering up a soup kitchen too would also, give the other churches out there that are also doing soup kitchens as well, maybe give them a little break, maybe go to all the other local homeless soup kitchens and work out, some things. Maybe let's work out some things as well to say, okay, what days are you guys running your soup kitchen, and talk to them and say, hey, if you feel like you can't, run a soup kitchen every day, let me know, and then I'll run one and stuff, Maybe figure out around lunchtime when there's all the other soup kitchens opened up to serve meals to the homeless, and then figure out when do they kind of stop, and then open up my soup kitchen for the homeless that may have missed that, and they can come over to mine and stuff, Maybe do some busing, or maybe the homeless person wants a second meal, Don't turn them away. Give them that second meal, And then another thing too is also offer up, maybe get with some of the local bus companies. Like I know Grand Rapids, it's the city of Grand Rapids. They have a city bus route called Rapids, and then I know Lansing, the state capital, they have a city bus system. Maybe talk to them and set up a bus route where in the morning, like around maybe 6 a.m., have a bus show up at like 5:30 a.m. and then departs from the place at 6 o'clock a.m. and takes them to either the downtown Grand Rapids bus station or the downtown Lansing bus station, wherever the Lansing bus station is at and stuff, Offer some routes there to them to make cities, and then that way if a homeless person say they homeless and they got family in other states and they're trying to get back to their families in the other state, and that way they could go to like the Grand Rapids, have a bus, take them to the Grand Rapids location where they can get on a Greyhound bus and go to wherever they need to go, or maybe there's somebody that works in the city and something and need a ride there, and things, offer, three each day, maybe 3 times a day, a route, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and then an evening route and stuff, because I know automobiles are getting to be where only the rich people can afford them, and the working class can't, where basically in that respect, going back in time, because little quick history lessons. When cars were first invented in the 1900s, the late 1800s and early 1900s, a lot of the common folk couldn't afford them. It was like a rich people's toy. And then Henry Ford came along, and he improved on the idea of the assembly line. And when he invented the Model T, he invented a vehicle that the average folks could afford to drive and could afford to buy and drive around and stuff. So yeah, and I know nowadays cars are like getting close to that. I think you can now for like $50,000-$60,000 buy a brand new car, and not everyone can afford those features. So definitely offer up some kind of bus route transportation and stuff. It'd be all one of those at the time when I got money to play with. Go from there and see what can do. And stuff. And as far as the idea was like doing something for the missionaries, that side of the project would just be the basic amenities that your standard apartment complex would have. Your standard apartment, 1 to 2 bedroom rooms and stuff, standard apartments where you'd have a living room, a kitchen, and maybe 1 to 2 bedrooms, 3, 4 bedrooms at the most, or maybe even if I had the money, maybe just do straight up low income housing and let the homeless stay there along with like, regular low income people or something, it all boils down to money and what's the best route to go in the area, what I would do is if I had the money, seek out the people that know the area, the professionals and and stuff, go to the governments and see what's needed and what's around. I know definitely a homeless shelter would be definitely a good thing in this area. And if I did like for the missionaries, make it more kind of missionary slash low income as well, housing and stuff. So, and things, because I know a lot of missionaries sometimes they will travel to another country, basically sell everything they own, move to that other country, do the missionary work for maybe about 3 to 5 years or something, and then decide to come back to the States, and then they don't have a place to stay, so they need a place to stay, and offer them up an apartment, based on how many people involved. I would probably do 1 2-bedroom, 4-bedroom apartments. Maybe have one floor all 1-bedroom apartments, and that floor 2 bedrooms, and then maybe the third floor or something, like 4-bedroom apartments and stuff. So to help out homeless, maybe have a few complexes where one complex would be like all the kind of 1 to 2-bedroom apartments, and then another complex would be maybe like 2 to 4 bedrooms or something. It all boils down to, at the end of the day, money and what the hay and stuff. Now, as far as like funding, I know people mention to me about, a lot of content creators do all this branding and all this stuff. Me, I'm just going to try my best through ad revenue of videos to generate the money to make these things a reality, because I want to be able to also, at the end of the day, show people with a little work and a little efforts and little to no money, you can you can become well-to-do and do things, and stuff. And like I know a lot of YouTubers do like memberships programs, and me, I want to membership programs, become a member of the channel and stuff, like membership stuff. A lot of content creators will give you exclusive content just for being a member and stuff, and I'm not going to do that. I want to make all my content free, because that's my way of giving back and helping out those in need, because there's not much out there you can do for free these days, or simply watch, and I want to be help on the free spectrum, where all somebody's got to do is sit and watch an advertisement like you normally used to do back in the day on your free public analog TVs back in the day. Yes, I'm that old and stuff. And where you watched a bunch of advertisements and then you went back to your scheduled program, or in this case, video. So that's why. So yeah, that's what my goal and plan is on far as kind of helping people and homeless is one idea. I do want to also still continue giving tents and sleeping bags and at the one little local thrift store in my area that gives out tents for free to homeless and stuff, and sleeping bags and things, still help them out and stuff. It's just when I get money, figure out what I can safely do without personally hurting myself and the purchasing of this house I'm currently buying and stuff, point some out. Like right now, my money situation, any little bit of money I make, I put it towards my place of residency and building and paying off this house and stuff, because house payments, and I got my own debt, my own problems, and so I'm trying to save myself from ending up on the streets and being that homeless person, because I know that's not fun. I've been on the verge of that before, and it ain't pretty, I know. So I'm going to end this 30-minute long video here. I get to talking and not realizing how long the video is, but I'm not going to edit anything out. But yeah, if you like this sort of content, give this video a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and if you ain't already subscribed, hit the subscribe button. That'll help me out, and also if you would share this video with people, that's will help me gain more views and try to build up this channel. You know, I'm not very good at coming up with good ways of, you know, advertising my YouTube channel. I haven't figured out the knack of what's the best way to advertise the channel. All I do is, you know, make the video, edit it, and then make a short version, and then edit to my Instagram and Facebook pages to try to help reach more followers and views. So by you sharing this video, you're gonna help me gain more views on my YouTube channel, and be able to, at the end of the day, help me get more money and funding to be able to do the things I want to do on this channel, and because I have a ton of video ideas and stuff I would like to do, but right now my money situation and my bank account saying no way, Jose. So hope you all have a good day, and thank you for watching Boomhour 69's YouTube channel.